Hello, Possums. This week on Dynasty Tailgate, we dive into the updated big board for college prospects and what to look for. As always, the guru, Billy Manziel, helps us navigate the noteworthy storylines for week 3 as we buckle in for another wild ride. Let's tailgate. Man, that gets me pumped. But anyway, we saw Texas almost upset Alabama, and my Hawkeyes are still trying to understand what offensive football is. Billy, what's going on? What's going on in this crazy world?
Last week was quite frustrating. Alabama is a bunch of frauds, and they need to be upset. And I think that it could happen this year. I don't think – I said this before the season. I didn't think Alabama was particularly special on the offensive side of the ball. They have Bryce Young, he is special by himself. But the rest of the talent in that backfield, the receiving core, the tight ends, it's all average. And this is probably one of the worst Nick Saban offenses he's had in probably 12 to 14 years. I'm trying to think. Julio was there in 2008, and it's not been bad since then. So this might be one of the worst, Joe.
He's probably going to scrap together another great year. So we have no reason not to expect that. But we're wishing for it.
No, but the thing is, Joe, they're not going to beat Georgia this time around. Like they adorably got to whoop down Georgia last year, and I get it. That definitely was a fun game to watch. But if they played Georgia again, this Georgia team, there's no way they could beat them. Just no way.
Well, I look forward to seeing that then.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to week 3. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anyone out there. The games this week are not great. I kind of said that last week because but there was still some prime matchups even that we at least got to dive in. We got to see the Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson game, which didn't really live up to the hype. We kind of hoped it would be like a back and forth. It would be intense. It kind of wasn't. Will Levis kind of made a bigger move than Anthony Richardson in that game, but whatever. So this week we're just going to update the big board. We're going to just go over the players, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers that we're looking at and possibly moving players off the board and possibly moving players up the board. So, Joe, without further ado, let's get into the quarterbacks. So the first one, man. So number 1, I think, is still Bryce Young. I cannot forget what he did last year. I cannot forget what he did in that Texas game because if he is an inch or two taller, he gets sacked and they lose the football game there when they were driving down the fourth quarter to get that field goal.
The final drive was insane. I think that solidified his at the top of the charts there.
Yes. It's just there's something about him that is very special. And he has proved, if he didn't prove it last year with the players because he had Brian Robinson, he had Jameson Williams, he had a good swath of talent there. Mechie was there for most of the year. He had a decent swath of talent last year. This year, woof. Jermaine Burton was not that guy on Saturday. I know people are going to try to prop him up, and we're going to get to him in the wide receiver category because I don't think I'm in on him as much as I was at the beginning. But even Jahmyr Gibbs, he's good catching the ball in backfield, not exactly doing a big threat through the run game. So Bryce Young's kind of having to, he's trying to wash the dishes and dry them off, Joe. He's doing both things.
He's manufacturing greatness, though.
He is. So far this year, he has 408 yards, 6 touchdowns, a 67% completion percentage, 0 interceptions, and 138 yards on the ground, as well as 1 touchdown there. The stats speak for themselves. He has played Texas, which was a hard game. Wasn't necessarily the greatest game in the second one as far as throwing the ball, but at the same time, I think I can speak to the fact that the talent around him is still a work in progress, to say the least. But for the sake of this podcast, still number 1. On to CJ Stroud for Ohio State. So the first game against Notre Dame, not anything to write home about. He got things back on track last week in his little cupcake matchup. He's got 574 yards, 6 touchdowns, 69% completion percentage, 0 interceptions, and he's not a threat in the run game. He's just simply not. But he's tall. He's 6'4". He's still firmly number 2 in my opinion. I still think he might at the end of the day be number 2 or number 1 in most people's book because of his height, because of just his ability on the field. But Joe, the receivers around him are making him very special.
Yes. When you have the type of wide receiver talent, and we saw Harrison just absolutely go off in this one. And then you got JSN there, who we said has just golden hands. So it's hard not to be a good quarterback with this type of offense around you, but he's making it work, and he has the prototype build that all the teams are looking for. I wouldn't be surprised if it does vault him up to 1 because of his build, basically, and how he plays.
Yeah, he just has that pro look about him, and like he even has the freshman. I think he's a freshman, either that or sophomore, Emeka Ibuka, and he's been doing really well. It's good because JSN was hurt in this last game, so he didn't get to play. But it doesn't matter. It's just next man up. It's kind of like what we thought out. Kind of like the old Alabama model, where the next wide receiver is just as good as the receiver that's on the field right now. So that's something.
They just turn them out there.
They really do. Ohio State and wide receivers. I mean. Yeah, they have a long lineage of good wide receivers there. All right, number 3 for me. A lot of people are probably going to still have Anthony Richardson. I'm not. I'm going Will Levis, Kentucky quarterback. 505 yards, 4 touchdowns, 60% completion percentage, and 2 interceptions. Not a threat in the run game, so there's no rushing to put on the screen. Joe, it's not that I'm in love with Will Levis. Here's the thing. At the beginning of this season, I thought there was going to be 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. And I do very well think that still could be the case. I think Will Levis is going to end up being a guy that gets into like that third spot where it's like the Josh Rosen spot. Not saying he's Josh Rosen. I know that I understand that's, you shouldn't say that. Or like Josh Allen was like number 7. I think he'll be in that spot. Because he'll be one of those teams where the team's not bad, but they're just bad enough to maybe need a quarterback change. Probably the Giants this year, if I can be completely honest with you. I think that he kind of fits that mold. He's just a gamer, Joe. He just goes out there and games. He's not necessarily like special at anything. He's more special than Desmond Ridder was last year. That's the comp I used for him. He's not special at anything. He's just good at a lot of things. Will Levis has at least got a pretty good arm.
So are we just going to compare him right to Kirk Cousins then? Because exceptional at nothing, but very good at lots of things.
I could see that. I could see that happening. At least arm talent wise, I think that could definitely be exactly what this is, like a Kirk Cousins type of situation. So Will Levis has my number 3 spot. Number 4, Tyler Van Dyke for Miami. I know that again, Anthony Richardson hurt me in this last game, so we'll get to him in a second. I have him number 5. But Tyler Van Dyke I need to see him play a good defense, which is why I'm glad they're playing Texas A&M this weekend, so we can actually see what Tyler Van Dyke looks against, like what he looks like against actual good competition. 456 yards so far, 3 touchdowns, 73% completion percentage, and 1 interception. That obviously that completion percentage is the one that kind of gets you a little, puts a little pep in your step when you see it. But he hasn't really played anybody good yet, so it's kind of like he hasn't, necessarily gotten to play anything past a scrimmage.
Absolutely. I mean, I for one have not watched him play at all, but that completion percentage is interesting. Is he more of a game manager type, or is he?
Well, see, last year he was a long bomb, like big arm, threw it down the field a whole lot. Like, he made Charleston Rambo the most, like I think he had the most receiving yards in one season in Miami history.
Wow.
Miami history. Like, they've had a lot of good receivers there, and he made Charleston Rambo that guy. So, but the thing is, he hasn't really done anything impressive this year, but he also hasn't, they haven't lost a game. So it'll be a good opportunity this weekend to see him against Texas A&M, see him play in a game where he could, end up being better.
Yeah. Solidify himself a little bit. That's for sure.
Right. So on to number 5 with Anthony Richardson, 311 yards, 0 touchdowns so far, 52% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, 110 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns in the run game. Joe, it's so hit or miss with him. It's just hard to put past the fact that he cannot throw the ball well. It's so hard. Like even Malik Willis last year, and given he was playing at Liberty against Liberty competition, But even Malik Willis, you kind of at least saw a framework for how the passing game would work. But Anthony Richardson, Joe, can just not throw the ball.
Right. There's nothing there. He's exciting as heck to watch, though. Absolutely exciting to watch, but they literally nothing in the air. I mean, it's sad.
It's so frustrating because you just want him to be better, and he can throw the long bomb. Kentucky was, a tough test for him, obviously, as they end up getting upset. And Utah was also a really good defense, and he had to play that in week 1. So maybe as they get into these kind of easier games, we could start actually seeing him develop, because, it's hard to go into your first 2 games against number 7 and then I think they were number 20 at the time that they played them. But just like those being your first 2 games is a very difficult test. So I don't think we've seen exactly what Anthony Richardson is, but first 2 tests, I would say he probably, legs wise, he probably ends up being like a B-, but like the arm is a F. I mean, it's just not great.
Yeah, and we can see him definitely being overdrafted just because of the dual threat quarterback in today's NFL. So definitely something to keep an eye on there.
There's definitely something there. All right, I'm going to lump the next couple guys together because I think these are our fringe guys. Henan Hooker is a good quarterback. He is in his 5th year at Tennessee. He had to sit out because of a transfer situation. He has been very, very good for Tennessee so far this year, but he has been keying in on one specific wide receiver in Cedric Tillman, and I think that kind of skewed the yards here a little bit. But I don't think he's bad. I think Henan Hooker could be a good guy. Devin Leary for NC State finally came back after, he did not play good in the first game. He got to play good in the second game. The first game I thought he was not going to be a very good quarterback for this entire season. Second game gave me a little bit more of a hope in that he's good. I'm probably going to mark off Phil Jerkovec and Spencer Rattler. They're going to get drafted. They could be good. There's so much to develop there. They're not going to be first rounds for sure, Joe.
Yeah, talk about hype falling off a cliff with Spencer Rattler there.
I don't want to discuss my comp for him from last season because wow, how the mighty have fallen.
There's always possibility, man. Okay. You could look like a genius by the end of this.
I appreciate you saying that, Joe.
Yeah.
All right. The other 2 that I think are wild cards here are Grayson Mccall, 482 yards, 6 touchdowns, 72% completion percentage, 1 interception, and he does have 40 yards on the ground as well. We thought when he lost Isaiah Likely that maybe he would fall off. Turns out, Joe, he might just be a good quarterback.
Yeah. It's, we saw a lot from Isaiah Likely, and we're seeing him do it in Baltimore right now, but you got to give McCall some credit there.
Yeah. And then last one is Malik Cunningham. I sent Joe a clip of him last week where he just looks like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he has only 347 yards, 0 touchdowns so far, 58% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, kind of eerily similar to Anthony Richardson, to be honest with you. 155 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. But that 1 touchdown, Joe, I mean, good God, it was electric.
It looked awesome. I mean, I thought you were just sending me a clip of Lamar Jackson. I'm like, what the hell? What is this about?
I know, it's funny how a Louisville quarterback ends up looking exactly like Lamar Jackson. It's just very strange.
A little smaller, right?
He is smaller. Yeah. He is smaller. I don't. Yeah, he is not a 1-to-1 comp of Lamar Jackson. He's like the. I don't even want to say like discount bin version. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
All right, let's get on to running backs. This one might be pretty quick, honestly, because I'm not going to lie, Joe. There has not been a ton of special running backs this year.
There really has not been.
I know. I'm kind of getting nervous for these drafts because some of these guys are going to have to get drafted as those first couple players in your dynasty league, and for me to tell you which of those players so far is kind of a crapshoot. But I'll just cover the ones that I think are people that we actually should be watching, and I'll kind of let the other ones just kind of speak for themselves. So Bijan Robinson is at the top still. He has not been incredibly efficient so far, Joe. I mean, he did play Alabama last week, so that is what it is.
I am shocked that his yards per carry is 4.1 because all I saw in that Alabama game was him getting to the line and falling forward for 2 yards. That was and it's hard to do against Will Anderson, but I get it,
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
see how he's 4.1, but I don't make the stats.
Right, exactly. It's kind of shocking to see. So he only has 128 yards so far through 2 games. 4.0 yards, 1 yards per average, 2 touchdowns, 31 attempts so far, 6 receptions for 118 yards as well. So I think you're getting a little bit out of that passing game. That's heavily how he was used against Alabama. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep saying it. He's a raw prospect. People are like hoping that he's gonna be Saquon Barkley, and I hope that too. But guys, Saquon Barkley was like hella special already at the running back position. Bijan Robinson has not shown that same level of specialness. Like, if we're going to compare players 1-to-1, they got to kind of be acting 1-to-1. And I'm not going to compare him to Saquon Barkley because Saquon Barkley was like really freaking good at Penn State. So I can't do it, Joe. I can't do it.
I agree with you, man. I'm anxiously awaiting a change in that, though.
Yes, me too. One of these weeks, Joe. One of these weeks, it's going to happen. All right. So number 2 on my big board right now. A lot of people have Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not. I'm off the Jahmyr Gibbs train, but we'll get into him in a second. Is Zach Evans from Ole Miss? 183 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 1 touchdown on 31 attempts, 2 receptions for 22 yards. Nothing exactly special there. He just looks like a 3-down back, and at Ole Miss, where they have a new quarterback in Jackson Dart, new tight end, shiny weapon in Michael Trigg, and then Zach Evans comes over from TCU. So they kind of had they're kind of playing fantasy football down there in Ole Miss, where they just get all these pieces together from different teams. He's looked good so far, and I think that he has a very good opportunity to be a 3-down back at the next level, Joe.
Yeah, he's definitely got to keep an eye on there. I like the comp of the fantasy team down there because that does kind of seem what they're doing.
Yes, it
Wish
is.
my Bears would do some of that, honestly.
I know. Well, you need to go sign some NIL deals, Joe. You can get some players. Okay. Next player I want to talk about is Jahmyr Gibbs. So 115 rushing yards so far, 6.4 yards per rush, 0 touchdowns on the ground, 18 attempts so far, 10 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown as well. He looks like J.D. McKissick. He talks like J.D. And I'm sorry, I was going to do the swims like a duck, quacks like a duck, flies like a duck, must be a duck. But Jahmyr Gibbs just looks like a receiving back, like one of those old school receiving backs. He does not appear to be a good running back, and the 6.4 yards per rush is very skewed to one 55-yard run that he took. The rest of them have been stopped at the line, 1 yard rush.
Yeah, I mean, without that, he has how many carries for 60 yards there?
Yeah, I don't think he has more than 2 that are over 10 yards. That's really
17
weird.
for 60. That's
yes.
Not super special there, but yeah, when you look at the stat line, it doesn't show the big picture. When you watch him play, it's not special.
It's not. And I think that they do have a running back behind him in Jason McClellan. I think that is going to be the running back that they use for most of the season as far as running the ball. But Jahmyr Gibbs is just not. Joe, there was a concern going into the season that I had that he was not overly productive when you gave him the football. And it's only coming to light more and more as the weeks go on that he's just not a good running back. It's just not there.
Yeah, hopefully things turn around for him, but we know Alabama, they've probably got 5 more guys that could take that spot.
Exactly, which is why he should be scared. But all right, so I'm just going to talk about 2 more people, maybe 3. Zach Charbonnet has only played 1 game due to injury. Chip Kelly did say after the game that he could have played in the second game if he was needed, but they were playing a not very good opponent, so they did not use him to get him hurt. 111 yards on that 1 game, 5.3 yards per rush, 1 touchdown, 21 attempts, as well as adding 5 catches for 36 yards. I thought he could have come out last year and been the 3-down back in the NFL, Joe, and I don't think that he's not going to be that this year as well. A lot of people are really down on him, but I think you're just going to get a really good steal in the second round of a draft or third round of a draft where he's going to be available because he's very useful.
Yeah, he just looks like a good football player, and we know that those guys are usually very productive in the NFL. So excited to see him. I gotta hear Tank, man.
Okay, well, we'll get into Tank then.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Tank Bigsby for Auburn. First game good, second game not as good. 198 yards rushing, 6.8 yards average, 3 touchdowns, 29 attempts, 5 catches for 31 yards. I think Tank is solid. There's just a few decision-making issues in the game that I think he needs to clean up. He needed to clean them up last year as well, as far as like game awareness. But I think this year that is the one piece missing from the puzzle.
Yeah, but he is uber talented.
He is.
He's a hard runner, and I love watching it.
He's going to be valuable at the next level.
I will never not be a Tank Bigsby fan.
I get it. All right, one more running back. We're going to talk about Mo Ibrahim for Minnesota. So he had a catastrophic injury last year that we thought maybe Mo would be done. I did not know if he'd be back or playing any more football. Well, Joe, he is laughing on our faces. 262 yards on the ground so far, 6.0 yards per rush, 4 touchdowns on 44 attempts, 2 catches for 13 yards. Joe, I know the injury is a main concern from last year. I think he could be back.
I think with the stat line and how he looks out there, he is back. I mean, back when he was playing for Minnesota, I absolutely loved everything I saw from him. How old is he now?
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem. So he's 4 by the time the draft starts. He might be 23, and he'll be 24 in the middle of the NFL season next year. So a little old, I get, but special.
Oh, no, I'm not saying anything bad about his age. It just seems like he's been playing for the better part of a century here.
We're getting there. We are getting there slowly but surely. Okay, let's move on to the wide receivers. We'll end there. I'm saving this for last because there's a lot of uncertainty at this position right now. There are some special players in here. They just haven't shown it yet, Joe. I don't know how else to say it.
Hardly any.
I'm going to kind of lump these first 5 together as Jordan Addison is going to get his own situation, but JSN has only played 1 game, 2 receptions for 3 yards. Keyshawn Boot has played 2 games, but he only has 7 receptions for 62 yards. Quentin Johnston's played both games, 5 receptions for 44 yards so far. Woof. And Josh Downs, I guess he missed the last game, but he has 9 receptions for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Downs only lumping into this because he has an injury now that we need to be monitoring. But Joe, these are all Bentleys, Cadillacs, and they're just not getting used properly, it appears.
Yeah, no, these guys are all really exciting. We know what they can do, and we know what they're going to be for the most part. We just, got to see something turn around on these offenses, get them more involved, because these guys are what we are really excited about this year. At least I am. I can't speak for you, but
yeah, no, the same. And I mean, we expect Keyshawn Booty and Quentin Johnston to be fine in the NFL. Their offenses are just that bad where you would hope that they would elevate them above where they are right now, but it's just not happening yet. And Quentin Johnston on TCU, brother, I am so sorry that you're having to getting put through that. LSU, I think, can at least salvage their season. TCU looks bad on offense, and I can't really do much for that. JSN and Josh Downs will be fine. They are just currently injured, and we'll be monitoring those injuries as the season goes on. But for the time being, can't really put much on tape, Joe, if you're not out there. Josh Downs did fine in that first game, but he didn't play in the second game.
Yeah, Josh Downs looked really good the first game, and that offense in general looks really good. So it's going to be exciting to get him back on the field.
Yeah, he lucked out and getting Drake May too, because Drake May looks really good.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so we'll skip around down the list. So Jermaine Burton, I'm going to put him in the cross-off category. 7 receptions so far for 45 yards. He does have 2 touchdowns, but he's not particularly, it just seems like he's kind of like the first option for Bryce Young, and so he just has to throw it to him. But I'm not really excited about Jermaine Burton. He's not put anything on tape that I'm like, man, he is going to be excel at the next level.
Yeah, and it could be like a Jahmyr Gibbs and him. They could show us something. It's still early in the season, so I'm not ready to completely write him off. But as of right now, yeah, we can cross him off this list.
Yeah, well, and he did transfer from Georgia, so he has only been there this offseason. So it is still, kind of like how I'm saying Jahmyr Gibbs is still a work in progress because transfers do take a minute to get in there. But so far, not feeling the greatest about it. All right, looking down, we got Marvin Mims, 10 receptions, 244 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looks really special. A lot of people had him mocked in the first round, and I don't think he's done anything so far to doubt that. Marvin Mims has played with like 3 different quarterbacks now. So he's played with Caleb Williams. He's played with Spencer Rattler. He's played with Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma. So he's been able to excel with everyone except for Spencer Rattler. So I'm positive he can be good.
Is it shocking that he's not thriving with Spencer Rattler?
Well, he looking back, it was shocking, and yeah. I don't know. I have thoughts on the offensive coordinator of that program last year. All right, so and then Jacob Cowing, I do want to mention him. 16 catches for 198 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a very good possession receiver. He's not really going to blow the doors off anything. Like he's not going to be the 74-yard bomb guy at the next level, I don't think. But I think he could be a guy that you can definitely do some check down passes to at the next level. Maybe a slot receiver, Joe.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to move to. So I have more players in the top 10, like Anais Smith. Didn't like how he looked in last game because that offense is dreadful. Raheem Jarrett, he looks solid, but I still need to see more from him. Parker Washington is on a bad offense in Penn State. Shocker, Penn State with a bad offense. Seems to be the story of their lives these last couple of years. But we're going to skip down to the people that I'm watching that were not on my watch list before the season, but have elevated themselves into the watch list, Joe. And that is Zay Flowers from Boston College. So he was on the watch list last year, but I thought he was kind of dead and buried. But turns out maybe not. 14 receptions, 196 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I like him a lot at Boston College. The other one is Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia. 20 receptions so far, 249 yards and 4 touchdowns. He looks electric. I am really excited for his prospects. I don't know. Did not really have much on the Bryce Ford Wheaton. Didn't really have him on the watch list or wasn't even aware that he was like this good of a wide receiver. And it turns out, Joe, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, watching him, I watched some of the highlights of him. It looks pretty awesome. I am totally off of West Virginia wide receivers after Kevin White screwed me and my Chicago Bears. So I can't put it all on Kevin White, but it
honestly, Joe, Bryce Ford Wheaton sounds like a future Bears wide receiver.
It does, yeah. 800 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, I can see it.
All right, Cedric Tillman is 15 receptions, 230 yards, and 1 touchdown for the Tennessee Volunteers. He is really good, and there is currently a promotion, Joe, at the Tennessee ball games. If he catches, I think it's 2 touchdowns in a game, everybody in the stadium gets something. I forget what the promotion is, but he is that like involved with that program to where they have a special thing for him.
That's a beautiful thing. I might have to go down to the game, see if I win something.
Yeah,
I like free stuff.
I forget I can't remember what the free thing. It's like donuts or something. I don't. It's something
free
like
donuts. Yeah,
it's something like that. It's something where you get like 2 free like donuts or something. I don't know. I can't remember. I probably needed to get that before I started the podcast, but here we are. All right, Xavier Hutchinson for Iowa State, 19 receptions, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns. The only problem I have is that Iowa State wide receivers tend to burn me at every turn, it feels like. Alan Lazard was the first. I can't even remember the second guy because he was a wide receiver that turned into a tight end. I can't remember what that guy's name was. But he burned me as well, and I just don't know if I can trust another Iowa State wide receiver, Joe.
I just think in general, Iowa just doesn't understand offense outside of tight ends. And now that he is a wide receiver, who knows?
Yeah, I feel bad because I don't want to take him again, but here we go. We might be there.
It is Moonshine Mountain Cookies is the Cedric.
That's what it is. Cookies. Yes, yeah. There you go. And the name I was thinking of was Hakeem Butler, by the way, from Iowa State. He burned me so many drafts that season, and I hope Xavier Hutchinson does not follow down that path.
I was all in on Hakeem Butler, man.
I mean, I don't even want to get into it. He looked perfect. All right. Yeah. Last player on the list is A.T. Perry for Wake Forest. He looks real. I mean, as soon as Sam Hartman came back, he was amazing. I mean, 8 receptions, 189 yards, and 1 touchdown so far. But the thing is, like, A.T. Perry is that guy that's going to catch the long bomb and take it to the house. Like, this is your guy. If you like those kind of plays and need those kind of plays on your team, A.T. Perry is that guy. And Wake Forest offense is just so electric that he's going to have every opportunity to show that he is a good wide receiver at the next level.
This man's first name is Torian, which is just a phenomenal first name. I mean, talk about Roman soldiers and stuff. That's a perfect name. I like it. I might name my kid that.
It is a good name. Okay, well, those are our updates so far. I have been a little underwhelmed, Joe, after pushing everyone into the 2023 first round basket. I told you, but the thing is, Joe, there's so many lottery tickets here. I mean, just to like think of these names, we got JSN, Jordan Addison, Kayshon Boutte, Quentin Johnson, Josh Downs, that could all be first-round wide receivers. You still have Bijan Robinson. I still think Zach Evans. I still think Zach Charbonnet are all first-round running backs. And then if you need a quarterback, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and then whoever would be number 3, I think all are going to be – I think there's at least going to be 4, maybe 5 first-round quarterbacks in the actual NFL draft, so that's going to make them valuable in possibly your draft because I still think that you're going to have a lot of value there. And then we didn't even touch the defense, Joe, and there's a lot of good defensive players this year as well that are going to be available. So I still think those 2023 firsts that you collected, like Infinity Stones, are still going to be mad useful in this next offseason. So don't panic just because the stats might not be reflecting exactly how good these players are.
Absolutely. There's going to be value here, and we know that people are going to vault up. These boards kind of come out of nowhere. It happens every year, and we're going to be here to point those guys out for you so they're not strangers by the time that you draft.
Exactly. All right. That is it for the tailgate this week. Follow me at Ombre Vendor on Twitter. Follow Joe at OP Joe, and that is 2 E's on the end of that, on Twitter as well. Follow Offensive Points. Go listen to Offensive Points. If you need a little fix of fantasy football, that is where we talk all fantasy football. We break down every game. We talk all the news, notes, everything in between. But this is all about the draft. The draft is coming whether you like it or not. So every week we are going to be breaking down these players and trying to get you prepared for next NFL draft season. So, Joe, get us out of here.
Guys, it's been fun riding with you. So go out and